What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about conditioning, cardio, whatever you want to call it. Basically, is it important at all? Should you be doing it? And if so, how should you go about it? So a lot of questions have been posed to ChatGPT, and I'm going to read them off and kind of see what it recommends and give my input on this all as well. For a little bit of background, I've ran half marathon, Spartan race, stuff like that. I don't think it's anything that. All right, first off, I'll give my take and then see what ChatGPT has to say. I think that running, sprinting, etc. is great. To me, strength training is going to be the core or the primary focus of any realistic to me, strength training should be the primary focus. If you're adding conditioning, so we can call it, or cardio, etc., or mobility work, that is going to be great, and I would recommend it. But also, I'm not a big fan of the half marathon or marathon training. To me, if you're spending hours and hours running, you're just going to be running up your cortisol, being more stressed, and not making the most of your time. You can do a lot of other things with that time, and to me, you're just going to be overtraining or not training in an efficient way. And to me, if you're doing these things to, say, like lose weight, realistically, a lot of times people don't really lose weight. They're also, or you may lose weight, but at the same time, it's not the amount of exercise that you do at the end of the day. It's how you eat that determines your weight. So you should focus more on saying, hey, I want to be this body fat percent, and then lose weight in a sustainable, natural way. While I do think that sprint work and stuff like that is going to be great for things like testosterone and very efficient uses of your time, realistically, I'm not going to wake up like this morning. I did some conditioning or some cardio first thing in the morning. So to me, I'm not going to wake up and be ready to sprint or something like that. So I did some low intensity, steady state. As you can see, I'm walking here. I wouldn't really consider this cardio though. So should finance guys do conditioning? Yes, because one, it builds stress resilience, two, increase cardiovascular health, three, mental sharpness, four, testosterone support. So stress resilience, it's saying increases heart rate variability, which basically means that you can have stress occur and then return to your baseline with better consistency or in an easier way, and lowers cortisol. That's not always true. Not always true. Okay. See, that's why I feel like people are like, oh, I'll just use ChatGPT to get my program or whatever. And it's like, no, it's going to give you generic advice most of the time. Now, it does have some wisdom that I don't have, but like first, we're only on the first bullet point, and I can already spot something that isn't entirely true. So balancing the adrenaline dominant workday, cool. Cardiovascular health mitigates sedentary desk life risks like blood pressure, insulin resistance, and heart disease. I guess I probably should have prefaced this with like, all right, if somebody's doing another form of exercise, does it matter if they do cardio? Let's see. Mental sharpness boosts BDNF. I'm not even going to pretend I know what that means. Dopamine and post-workout clarity. Testosterone support, regular movement, and sprint work beats burnout from excessive lifting. Again, who said that somebody was lifting excessively? Sprint work is going to be good, but all of these training methods can be detrimental if done excessively. So I'm not sure where running can be detrimental if done excessively, which is part of what I was mentioning earlier. How often, how much, what kind? Frequency, 2 to 4 sessions per week, depending on training volume. Duration of 20 to 40 minutes is optimal. You're not training for a triathlon, you're conditioning to dominate your day. So the type, let's see, pick based on goal, preference, and season. So ideal conditioning type based on the goal. So stress, if your goal is stress resilience, which is interesting, zone 2 cardio, bike, jog, ruck. I wish it would give you time. I guess it's saying like 40 minutes. That is one thing. Like if you're running for over an hour, to me, that is when you're going to be spiking your cortisol above a reasonable amount. So power and speed, you want to do sprints, hill sprints, sleds, intervals. Fun and longevity, pick up sports, swimming, hikes. A lot of times, depending if you're competing in a sport or something like that, you're going to be doing more of that power and speed. Aesthetic. So for me lately, it's been a lot of the fun and longevity. but I also have been just knocking out some zone 2 cardio. Like yesterday I went for a run, this morning I rode the bike, etc. So just getting some of that in early in the morning has been nice for me, just a little half hour, 15 minute to half hour session. Fun and longevity, this is what I've been doing probably before this week for a while now, but basically just having some fun in the sun has been the primary focus on my cardio or conditioning days. Aesthetic and athletic mix, interesting. It says boxing, rowing, circuits, kettlebells. To me, I know there's overlap, but I'm not a big like kettlebell circuit or circuit kind of guy. To me, if you are doing strength training, you should be doing it where the weight is like heavy, and then train your conditioning separately. But I understand that if you're not training heavily with the weights, you could also supplement or gain strength benefits from circuits or kettlebells. But to me, a lot of the kettlebell stuff just seems silly, if I'm being honest. Some of it could be helpful, but I think it's overutilized in some cases. If they already lift and walk, that's a solid foundation, but conditioning adds a performance edge, fills the energy systems gap between lifting, the anaerobic, and walking, low intensity aerobic. That's interesting. So like I was kind of wondering, like to me, strength training, you're already getting your heart rate up. Like if you were doing sprints, for example, or running, now you're not doing necessarily as much, like, you're not curling for 2-3 minutes or 5 minutes straight, right? But you're getting your heart rate up, you're moving a lot of oxygen and blood through the body, and then you're recovering back down to, a more stable state after the exercise. So let's see, think of it like asset allocation. Lifting is your high yield stock, walking is your low risk bond, and conditioning is your ETF for sustainable returns. That's interesting. A lot of times when it comes to fat loss, I think of cardio or conditioning kind of as like your job or your income, your manual work, whereas the muscle building is going to be the asset, because to continue burning calories from cardio, you need to continue doing cardio. Whereas if you have built up muscle, then you're going to be burning more calories over time as you build muscle. So the muscle starts working for you while you sleep, etc. So you're going to be raising that basal metabolic rate. What if they just do yoga? So yoga is brilliant for mobility, recovery, parasympathetic tone, but not a substitute for cardiac output, lactate threshold, explosive power, or VO2 max. Keep it in, but don't let it replace all movement. Understood. What if they just want to play sports? Good. Sports are good, but not enough. It says sports are reactive, chaotic, unstructured. Conditioning is progressive, targeted, and adaptive. That's interesting. I guess it depends how you're using conditioning, right? So conditioning, sometimes I'm just like, all right, let me just go out and do a run. I'm not going to time it. I'm not going to, hold myself to a certain distance, but I don't necessarily time things or keep my pace or track like that. I don't think it's just not like a goal of mine. To me, I'm more so just trying to progress with my lifting, and then the cardio aspect or conditioning, I just kind of try to get out there and do, more of like low intensity, steady state. Even if I'm doing sprint work, it's not like I'm like timing my sprints, just like how did I feel? Am I moving fast or not? So it says you'll plateau or get injured if sports is your only conditioning. I'm not sure why it would say that. Plateau or get injured. I feel like you can continue progressing if you're doing sports. I guess it's saying like without proper conditioning to accommodate your sport, you're going to plateau in terms of your sustained intensity level, because your conditioning is weak. So like if you're a boxer or something, then you're not going to be continuing. But to me, if you're just going at boxing, going to boxing class every day, you're going to improve your conditioning. And it says or get injured. I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with that. What if they don't have time, in air quotes? Then they need it more than anyone, it says, which is interesting. So sprint ladders equals 12 minutes. Ruck with a weighted vest while on a call equals double duty. Morning jog before markets open equals clarity before chaos. Conditioning pays dividends in energy, focus, and discipline. So a lot of this don't have time talk tends to be a cop out, in my opinion. If you're prioritizing it, then you're going to make time. What if they want to gain size? Conditioning won't kill gains. That's another point that I would probably disagree with. Bad nutrition and excessive intensity will, it says. So conditioning definitely will kill gains. If done, you're literally in a catabolic. So catabolic meaning like you're basically breaking down, not a workout, like breaking down when you're lifting, but you're like eating away at your muscle at a certain point of, say, running. Whereas when you're building muscle, you're breaking it down, right? But then you're recovering and building it back up in an anabolic state by feeding it protein, getting proper rest and recovery. So I'm surprised it says excessive intensity. I'm not sure if it means excessive in terms of continuous intensity where you're not recovering, or if it means really high intensity, because to me high intensity is what it wouldn't be that, because high intensity, I wouldn't call it excessive, but high intensity is what stimulates a response of adaptation. So you want to be training intensely, at least when it comes to strength training. Again, another reason why ChatGPT might steer you wrong. What if they want to gain size? 1 to 2 sessions of low to moderate intensity cardio or sled work aids recovery and nutrient partitioning. Low to moderate intensity cardio. 1 to 2 sessions a week, a day, an hour. I'm not sure where the clarity should come in there. 1 to 2 sessions of low to moderate intensity cardio. Interesting. You'll likely grow leaner and harder, not smaller. Interesting. Again, I wish I was giving more description and parameters around when conditioning won't kill gains. Sure, 1 to 2 sessions of low to moderate intensity, that's going to be good. Now, if you're doing a lot, 10 times that, it probably will kill your gains. Aids recovery and nutrient partitioning, that's cool. All right, so what if they hate running? No problem. Conditioning doesn't equal just running. Try sled pushes or pulls, rowing machine. The rowing machine sucks even worse than running, if you ask me. Assault bike intervals. I'm not sure why it says intervals. You can just ride the assault bike. Boxing, hill sprints, rucking, kettlebell circuits, etc. Sprint or marathon. Interesting here. Sprint always. I'm shocked by that response. Or, I agree with it, but I'm surprised that it said that there. So sprint always. Why? Hormonal edge like testosterone and growth hormone, or GH. Time efficient and power focused. Marathons equals chronic stress. Poor ROI for most high performers. I think I made at least a story, maybe a post about this. To me, if you're running a marathon, it's one of the worst things you can do to me, it's just not the goal that you should be aiming at. Let's leave it at that. Not only is it going to raise your stress levels, probably make you hate life for a little bit while. Sure, you may feel gratified, or you may have a feeling that that you did something that you weren't at one point able to do, which I respect mentally, but a lot of people have that post-run not being fulfilled feeling. And to me, there is a bias where it's like, oh, how was your marathon? And it's like, it's like you've spent so many hours training for a marathon, you basically have to say that it was good for you, or that you feel good, or that you feel great, because it would be unwise of you to have spent that much time on something and not be glad that you did it, right? But I don't think that is an authentic or real answer a lot of the times. It's almost like if you spend a whole lot of money on something, or somebody buys you a really expensive gift, you're not allowed to say that you don't like it. Let's be real. I mean, you can speak your mind, but you're not going to say, oh, I spent the last 3 months training for this and it was dumb, unless you're a G like me. So yeah, I don't think that marathons are a good idea for most people to do. Especially if you're a finance guy and trying to, balance your time and also not look like a dork. Best time to run. Morning, fasted, low intensity for mental clarity and fat oxidation. Luckily, I've done that today. Afternoon or evening for sprinting or high intensity intervals. All right, I can get behind this. Getting some early morning, low intensity cardio in, even if that's, for me, whenever I start trying to lose weight, the first thing I do is I start my day with a 10-minute walk. If that seems too long, start it with going around the block if you're in a neighborhood or whatever it is, and then add another block, and then add another block. Now, you don't want to do this until you're at 100 blocks walking like crazy, but starting your day with a walk is going to be an intentional way to give you some mental clarity and start burning some more calories. And yes, I think that afternoon or evening, I've been working out around noon lately, so sprinting or high intensity intervals could be great for you as well. But to me, it's going to be, going for even a stationary bike ride or getting on the stair stepper or something like that. And then realistically, if you're doing these things and you want to play a sport later in the day, that's like an added bonus at this point, depending how you're structuring it, right? Like if you want to get up and do some cardio, great, or conditioning. And then if you're looking for something more high intensity, probably better in the afternoon or evening, which I agree with. I wouldn't recommend doing your sprints like right before you go to bed. Ideally a couple, like maybe before you have dinner or something like that. Run more on fewer days or less on more days. Depends on intensity. And this statement I agree with. So high intensity equals fewer sessions and more recovery. If you're doing low or moderate, more frequent is fine. So if you're going for a walk, you can do that every day. If you're sprinting, you're going to do that like 2 or 3 times a week, something like that, maybe even once. So golden rule, never let conditioning interfere with strength or mobility. All right, I'm glad we have that squared away as well. Should it be primary, supplementary, or balanced? For high-performing men, primary is strength. That builds the chassis, so to speak. Supplementary equals conditioning, keeps the engine humming, and then balanced with mobility, ensuring your longevity. I would also mention that mobility, I use that as a word to focus on mobility, flexibility, etc., pliability possibly, but to me that is also a performance enhancer. So you're with added mobility, you're going to experience, you're able to stretch the muscles further, which is able to give you more force production. I've noticed this after I got a really deep tissue massage and some scraping. I'm able to extend farther down, having a longer stretch on my pull-up, and that enables me to lift more weight because I'm not now, because I can build more acceleration. Force equals mass times acceleration. So I can build more acceleration going into the, that 1 or 2 inches here, being that I have already created acceleration. Now you might think that a lower range of motion makes the weight easier to move, but if I can start the motion, sorry I'm moving while I'm doing this, but if I can start the motion here instead of here and already produce a little bit of acceleration going into here, then the greater range of motion is going to be an advantage because I'm already going to be in motion, and it would take force. It would be it would take force to slow that down. So by having a little bit longer range of motion, a little bit more mobility, a little bit more flexibility, I'm able to produce more force than I was without that mobility or range of motion. Think of it like this. Strength makes you hard to kill. Conditioning keeps you alive long enough to matter. Mobility lets you move like a man, not a machine. That's funny. So the ideal conditioning setup, I'm curious to see what it says here. Ideal conditioning setup, weekly example. Monday, zone 2 ruck, so a vest walk. That's interesting. 30 minutes. Wednesday, sprint interval on the hill, so probably run 20 hills. My goodness, if you guys haven't ran hills in a while, I remember I was doing it when I was training for the second Spartan race, because it was in like the mountains, and my goodness, you can run 5 or 10 hills and be like done. Like that's the whole workout. I think I started at like 6, 8, and then 10, and then I ended up finally doing like 20, maybe 25 or 30. But my goodness, that nothing raises the heart rate like a good hill, especially if it's like a longer hill and you need to take 30 seconds to run the whole thing. Depending where you're at, that can be great. If you're in Charleston, the bridge is not the best hill. Let me put you on to the best spot if you're looking for high intensity hills. Shoot me a message. If you didn't know, Charleston is entirely flat for the most part, except for there's one spot that I found that is ideal for high intensity hills, short, quick bursts. Now, Monday zone 2 ruck, Wednesday sprint intervals, Friday boxing or circuits, and Saturday pickup sport or hike. Love this, man. One thing I would add here is like, to me, if you're gonna do some low intensity stuff, you might as well do it more often. Now, if you're alternating between like a lifting day or strength training or mobility training, etc., then I would just push these sessions into like 40 minutes. Like realistically, your sprint workout's still going to take 40 minutes, but you're just going to warm up. You're going to warm up and cool down for 5 to 10 minutes before and after, and then you're going to run your sprints, and probably you're not going to be sprinting for 20 minutes. You're going to sprint for 30 seconds and then take at least 30 seconds, maybe even up to like 3 minutes off, depending how high of an intensity you're trying to train for. So, yep, that sounds good to me. Again, if you're training at a high intensity level, you're going to be doing so not as, what is it? Yeah, I guess it depends. Like if you're training for like a fight, like that one medal there, you're going to be training really intensely, but using, that actually brings up from another video, the Ross Edgley. If you look at my videos, the Ross Edgley, you want to use that because it gives you the recovery phase, and then the base phase, and then the build phase, and then the peak phase. So when you're peaking for like an event, you're not going to be training as much volume. So you're not going to be training, twice a day for 2 hours. You're going to be training, once a day for that peak phase. You're going to be training maybe one intense session every day or every other day, as opposed to like 2 intense sessions 6 days a week. Or 2. Regardless, moving on. Cool. I think that's. I feel like it was a little bit vague, or gave, interesting answers, shall I say? But with that, that's kind of an overview. Personally, I am either doing cardio or conditioning. I guess it depends if you consider walking cardio or conditioning. I do that every day. Currently doing some like lower intensity stuff each morning. I think that's just a good way to kind of get the blood flowing, start the day. Now, maybe a month ago, I was doing 4 days of lifting and 2 days of just like fun in the sun, I would call it. So like go play some basketball, go surf, go for a run if I was up for it, but nothing crazy. So conditioning, definitely do it. Find a way that's fun. If you enjoy boxing, definitely go check out a gym, or if you're curious about it, find a local gym. Can't recommend it enough. If you're not able to commit the time, not only the time, but like showing up at a certain time on a routine, that's either prioritize it or do something that is accessible to. I'm a big fan of like jump rope as more of like a sprinting or higher intensity work. If you're able to jump rope, that's something you can kind of do anywhere and bring with you if you're on the road and stuff like that, and get a really good workout in. Also helps you just build that rhythm and balance and foot speed and those kind of things, which are good. I don't want to drag it on too long. If you guys have questions, shoot me a question or shoot me a DM on Instagram at Grow with Crego. Make sure you like this and subscribe. If you are interested in connecting, well, let me know if you guys have questions. I'm looking forward to sending out another video tomorrow, and we'll chat soon.